on the 20th Century Fox lot, they were building the set for this show called Firefly,
Mm.
which was Joss Whedon's new,
Yep.
he was huge at the time with Buffy, and I don't know if Angel was out at that time,
Um,
um,
I don't know.
but Firefly, and so they built the set. It took months. They built the set on the stage. I went in there as they were
Wow.
building the ship, and like looking at the skeleton of the set, and
Yeah.
and it came up after all this work. They shot the show, and it was it was done. It took them longer to build the set than it did to shoot.
Wow.
And then it was one season, and that was all she wrote.
Dystopia tonight. Dystopia tonight.
Hey, what's up?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
So
I've got my killer jacket on.
it's a fucking great jacket. I'm gonna obsess about this jacket for
Yeah.
months now. That's what it's gonna be in my head. It's a great jacket.
See, John did not send me the fun jacket memo. Thanks,
No,
John.
I know.
We have a thing, John
I know.
and I have a thing. We just love jackets. And
Absolutely.
we have a bunch of jackets that we probably don't get a chance to wear as often as we'd like to.
Absolutely, I completely agree. I try to wear a different one as much as I love summer, but I get really bummed out when I don't get to wear a cool jacket.
Yeah, so you're in Jersey, and I was in LA for a long time, and surprisingly, it's actually pretty cool there in the winter, and actually even the summer has been mild. So I'm wearing jackets all the time. I'm now in Florida, and there's all these jackets, and you can't wear them.
Right? Yeah. When I moved out to LA, and it took me a bit to shake the leather jacket thing in any kind of even LA winter is not really winter.
Oh yeah.
But I would still wear it, and I would just be like sweating.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, no.
It was strictly you and Andrew Dice Clay wearing leather jackets by the
Oh
comic
yeah.
store.
Pretty much, yeah.
I used to work at. Speaking of Andrew Dice Clay, and this is probably going to happen a little bit if we talk about people coming up, because you live in LA long enough, there's a connection.
Yeah.
I used to work at Gold's Gym in Hollywood. Now you wouldn't really know that because of my lack of muscles, but I used to work at Gold's Gym, and he used to come in all the time.
Wow. Holy shit.
To work out.
Did you talk to him?
Not really. No. And at that time, he was kind of in that phase where people, he had a comeback, he had a resurgence, but at that time, people left him alone, and he wasn't wearing a leather jacket to Gold's Gym.
No.
But he was very cool.
Yeah. It's hard to work out in those. I say that from experience. I've done
really?
real quick. Sometimes you're in a rush and you just swing into a place.
And say if you want to shed some extra pounds.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then if you pass out, you just do the Martin Lawrence defense where you're like, it was hot, I got a heat stroke. I worked with Andrew Dice Clay in the beginning of that resurgence. And the cool thing is that I was just starting out in comedy, but he's just an older Jewish guy, which I don't know if he'd get, but that's what he is. He's got that character. People don't realize that it is just a character. So when you see him in person, he is just kind of just a really chill guy. Then when he gets on stage, he does that whole shtick.
Yeah, that was the vibe I got. He was just kind of a regular dude doing his thing, and then he just, he got slammed for that character back in the day.
Oh, totally.
But also people loved him too. So
that's the craziest thing is stadiums. Him and Kinnison, I think, were the only two that filled giant fucking stadiums back in the day.
Yep, that was unheard of for comedians other than maybe Eddie Murphy at the time.
Yeah,
I don't remember. But yeah, it was. He was like the rock and roll. Him and Sam Kinison were like the leather, the jacket guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Sam had the trench coat and did the preacher thing, and Dice did oddly enough poems. But he did a bunch of stuff like that. Were you when you were out in LA? Because Eddie Murphy you just mentioned. I swear to God, my friends used to just see him shopping with his girlfriend or wife. And I never got to, but it seemed like a regular thing when I first got out there. Like, we saw Eddie Murphy down in Melrose today. And I'd be like, are you guys just doing this on purpose? But I never got to see him.
Yeah, I never, it's funny because there are certain people, I was thinking about this the other day, kind of like how fate and destiny work, work in your life. Because I ran into some very interesting people, made friends with some very interesting people, and then other people I never saw.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. And it's always like you just miss them. Like, I don't know what it is about that, but it was always like you'd hear about it, you hear buzz about those kind of people. I'm not good at like picking out celebrities in public. I don't know if you are, but like I can't do it.
A lot of times, and a lot of times what you realize being there long enough is that it's like the alien ships. They're there. You just don't see them. Because, like I'm trying to see if I want to tell this story because I don't want to seem like I'm name dropping or anything.
No, name drop.
Drop
them all. We'll pick them up for you.
This is just a fact of part of what happened in one part of my life. So I was doing this play, and our director was best friends with Angelina Jolie.
Oh wow!
And what ended up happening is she came to rehearsals a couple times and actually bought us food. Not only that, at the end of the play, donated a bunch of money that she didn't have to, like 5 figures, and everyone got paid.
Wow!
And guess what I bought with my money?
A jacket.
A jacket.
Nice.
I did. I bought a Wilson's actual leather jacket. The point of the story, though, is that you'd never know that it was her because she wasn't trying to, she wasn't wearing makeup. She wasn't, Angelina Jolie, she on screen, she just like, oh my God, there's no one else like her. She radiates. She was a lovely person in person, but not someone that you would recognize unless you were looking.
Oh yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that you bought a jacket with it because I got out to LA. I immediately was like, because I'd been doing stand-up for a while and I hadn't had a regular job in a long time, but I got out to LA and I was like, let me get something part-time before I get my footing out here. I had a bunch of meetings and stuff, but I was like, whatever. I got this dumb job as a receptionist for Tom's gonna love this. Fuck you, Tom.
I was gonna say Murphy Brown.
Murphy Brown. Yes, no.
Murphy Brown.
Even worse. It was at a dance studio that was literally just fledgling dance studio. So like she didn't know what she was doing, and I lied about everything. So I was like, sure, I know Excel. Sure, I can do this. I was like, how fucking hard can it be? And it wasn't really that hard, but I was not good. Like, it was not worth having me there, and I'm not the first person you want to see when you're, at a dance studio. So anyway, I do that or whatever. They're like, hey, it's not working out. I'm like, oh, I know. So I leave and I get my last check and I'm like, I don't have any money, and I just went to Melrose and I bought a leather jacket.
Wow.
And that was it. And then I was fine, by the way, when I was out there. But I was like, oh, I should really save this. I just lost my only part-time job. I don't have any gigs yet. Nah. And then I was like, I went and I bought this fucking awesome leather jacket that I still have.
And it was worth it?
Oh yeah, absolutely worth it. That's why I was wearing it in like 180 degree heat. I was like, I will fucking sleep in this thing.
Was it Millennium Dance Studio that you worked at? What studio was it?
Oh my God, I don't remember the name of it. I actually don't think it's around anymore. It was it wasn't in Melrose. I can't remember where it was. I remember driving to it though, and I mean it's not uncommon in California, but I was driving to go to this dance studio, and like I had to go like around a mountain, and I thought I've never ever done anything like this. But like it was kind of far, like from where I lived. I lived in Studio City, and it was nowhere near it.
Oh, so you went over the hill?
Yes. To
get to Melrose or whatever that area.
Yeah. So I don't remember. I think it might be gone. I mean, I hope she was very nice, but I sucked.
Most of the big studios like that, even the big ones, like back in the day when Britney Spears and all those guys were rehearsing at a place called Millennium Dance Studio. That was the big place. That that place is gone.
Yeah, that sounded familiar. Yeah, this one was way smaller, and but it was nice while it lasted anyway.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it
Sounds
wasn't
like
too
a
bad,
fun
man.
job.
Yeah, it was funny because when you have a job and like her husband was coming in every now and again, so I'm sitting there doing a thing, and sometimes there just wasn't shit to do because they didn't have a lot of clients yet because they had just opened. So I'm sitting there, I got done with everything I had to do, and they were literally paying me to sit there, and she was fine because I had to answer the phone and she needed somebody.
Right.
But he would come in and he'd be like, "Why the fuck are we paying this kid
Right.
to sit here?" And I also wanted to be like, "I don't know why you're doing it either." But
I don't know why you're paying me. I'll just go.
Yeah. It was
Do
like,
you have any extra jackets though? That you might be willing to give to me?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, are you teaching smaller people? Because I'll take their jackets. That's fine. I'm like, I got this one at a Build-A-Bear. So it's fine.
That is a small jacket.
It is I know. Oddly enough, they fit though. Yeah. But it's great. Like, so you're extremely talented, man. You do the voiceover work. You're an actor and you're a musician. When you were a kid, what was the first thing? What was the first true love?
Ooh, the first thing. Well, I think the first thing for me was my mom took me to. Well, first of all, I was raised by television and movies. Big Star Wars changed my life. Like the Beatles changed, musicians' lives. Star Wars changed my life.
Nice.
And so I was glued to the TV. I loved cartoons, especially the Transformers, Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Thundercats.
Right.
Stuff like that.
I love the Thundercats. Yeah. They're rebooting it.
Oh, they've rebooted many versions of it, actually. Oh, wow. You might not have heard of them because they haven't really done it as well as the original. But
right.
It's hard to recapture that 80s magic. In fact, when I lived in New Jersey, there was a place called, oh my gosh, was it Lionel Toys?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Lionel Toys. And I went and I bought the Lion-O figure.
Oh my God.
He had the sword and the claw thing that he had.
Yeah.
So I loved that stuff. And my mom actually took me to an agent, talent agent, when I was probably, I don't know, maybe 7.
Okay.
And on the wall, do you remember that show Too Close for Comfort?
Yeah.
Yes.
The blonde in Too Close for Comfort. And a picture of a bunch of people, but she was the only one I recognized. And I was like, wow, it's the girl from Too Close for Comfort. and they said, we want to take your son. We want to put him in a suit. There's a new cable company called Super TV. We want to put him in this commercial and blah, blah, blah.
Nice.
And my dad said, no.
Oh, no way.
So it wasn't, so that kind of fire from not being able to do something was in me for a very, very, very long time. So when I got to LA, I actually went out there for music, but I ended up working in a recording studio on the other side of the class in voiceover, recording the talent.
Cool.
And I was like, I'm in LA. My roommate was an extras casting agent. He's like, dude, you should I can get you work, because I had no money. I was interning when I first got there. I said, I need money. He said, let me get you in there. So it just kind of, and I started to see on these shows that I was on, I had no interest in being an actor at that point, but it was only until I got to, some of these sets, like, I don't usually talk about that stuff because it was just so long ago, but like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh yeah.
I actually did extra work on that show, and would go in and some of the actors wouldn't show up on time.
Wow.
I'm like, well, I could do that. I can show up. I can read lines.
Oh, that's great. Name names, because Joss Whedon's in some hot water, but let's spill on some of the actors so we can get them in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, I was in LA for so long, for 23 years. So I saw many, many careers and many, many shows kind of come, go, come back.
Right.
Became friends with some of the people on those shows. Nice. And it's like, I was just talking to my dad about the Firefly set. This is going off topic, but
oh my no, you're not off topic. You're never off topic with a Firefly story. I love Firefly.
Okay, so when I was like working my real job as I was starting to, as I was getting my acting career started and planning and building my resume and doing plays and stuff like that. My real job was working on a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I was in post-production at one point, and I was working with as a PA for the writers at one point. Came in just after Adam Levine left.
Wow.
Which is totally weird, right?
That is cool.
But that's a whole other story. And on the 20th Century Fox lot, they were building the set for this show called Firefly, which was Joss Whedon's new,
Yep.
He was huge at the time with Buffy, and I don't know if Angel was out at that time, but
I don't know.
But Firefly, and so they built the set. It took months. They built the set on the stage. I went in there as they were building the ship, and like looking at the skeleton of the set, and it came up after all this work. They shot the show, and it was it was done. It took them longer to build the set than it did to shoot.
Wow.
And then it was one season, and that was all she wrote.
I know it's crazy. Well, that was such a weird show because it was so ahead of its time. You know what I mean? Like it was it was an hour-long show. It was kind of comedy drama, but also adventure and stuff. And then it was on Fox.
I know they did everything. They did everything right. It was like it was our generation Star Trek, or could have been. And I think it was probably just on the wrong network for the show.
Yeah. And all the everybody that was on that show. I mean, Alan Tudyk, amazing.
Yep. Gone on to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And Nathan Fillion and holy hell. I'm blanking on names. This happens every episode. We do this.
I forget names too. So
do you? Okay, great, good. Yeah. Well, I'll edit it in post.
But a Nathan Fillion story, who I never actually met, but so I see the show. And he's a star of this show. Mm-hmm. And the critics, I think, liked the show.
Yeah.
And then the fans liked the show, but it was just on the wrong network, and they just didn't support it, I think. So anyway, after that show, I was actually I got a good agent, and I was auditioning. I was working a little bit, and one of the auditions I went into, I don't even remember what it was for, some TV show. Mm-hmm. As I was walking in, Nathan Fillion was walking out, and he was basically like, he was not happy.
Okay.
He was not happy.
Right.
With I don't know what, but he was just like, when you come out of a room, you're like, God damn,
Oh yeah.
And I was walking by, I was like, that's the guy from Firefly, and I'm pretty sure we were going in for the same part.
Oh shit.
And it was the reason why I think I remembered it was because, for two reasons. One was like, man, this guy's auditioning again. He just had his own show, and you think you have your own show, you're set, you're done.
Yeah.
Your career is the road to Oz is paved.
Yeah.
And he was back on the streets, and that's the reality of the business, is that's 9 times out of 10 what happens. The second lesson that I learned, though, was after many, many years, this guy ended up kicking major ass.
Yeah.
Didn't quit, and people liked him, and there was a place for him on television. Mm-hmm. Multiple lead in multiple shows. So I've never met the guy. I don't know him, but I remembered that moment, and I always thought, wow, look at that. But then also maybe even more so, is like, this guy kept going. Yeah. And, you have to be really, really tough to face that kind of, rejection on a daily, weekly basis for years and years and years. It does wear on you.
Yeah. Oh my God, absolutely. And that's the thing that people don't see on the outside either. Like on every level of it, even when people slightly know you and they don't, like, I feel like when you're starting out and you're doing okay, but people on the outside don't think you're doing enough. Like, if you're not on at a certain, what their level of success is, they're like, he's not trying hard enough. Why didn't they, you know what I mean? And they don't see the constant shit you're battling through it. And then on the flip side, I had a friend who was in a movie with Tom Hanks. Uh-huh. And there was in between scenes, and they were just kind of, chatting a little bit. And he had asked he was like, you know, what do you got coming up, or what are you thinking about, whatever? And Tom was like, oh, I'm just thinking about the next gig.
Wow.
And he was like, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Even Tom Hanks.
Yeah. And Tom Hanks was like, yeah. He's like, this wraps in a couple days, and you know, he goes, you never stop. Like, you never stop thinking about what's next, and that blew me away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
you're
very
right.
different. That's another thing I found out. Is that's very different than what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, from the music perspective, when I got out there, I mean, I grew up on bands like, you know, as far as the LA strip bands, there's like Poison.
Yeah.
I was never a huge Guns N' Roses fan, but you know, LA Guns, Pretty Boy Floyd, you know, all these Warrant. And bands like that, you know. So when I went, I was like, I'm going to LA where all my bands are.
Nice.
You know, like it's gonna be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And that was way over at that time, but those guys were still there.
Nice.
And it wasn't until maybe, you know, 10 years after that a resurgence actually came. But again, it's being able to see like the reality. You know, these are guys that you always saw them on magazines, you know, Metal Edge and Circus, and they had posters. You go like this, and it's like, you know, Sebastian Bach.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Who I got to work with, which was awesome, by the way.
Oh, he seems like the coolest.
But man, yeah, just like having that whole like, you know, I always explain it. If you watch the movie The Wizard of Oz, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go to this place where you think it's going to be this thing, and if you're lucky, you find some friends to go along the road with you, and they all have these insecurities and think that they don't have what they actually already have,
right?
And always did. And then you get to Oz, and it's this like guy who's, you know, he's really just like some short dude with a, you know, a wacky mustache, and who's like, you know, short. Who's just using technology to fool you.
Oh yeah. It's crazy how much of most of this shit is, and that's the thing too, is I feel like there's a bunch of levels that you go through where you're like, oh my God, this is just smoke and mirrors, and then you get to the next level and you're like, fuck, this is more smoke and mirrors, and then you're like it doesn't matter. Like each time you get to a certain point, you're like, oh my God, I can see the framework, the wiring. This isn't built to code. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing's weird.
It's the new level. It's just the next level of it's a hierarchy of smoke and mirrors, and you get to the next level and the next one. But like you just said, even Tom Hanks, who I love Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
But, you get a sense to see like these are real people. These are people that, you know, and in some ways they're very much like you, and in other ways they're very much not like you.
Sure. And you know what's crazy too is like they are just people, but it's like there's only a handful, I feel like, that get to that point where you know the story where you're like Prince and you ask for a camel at 3 o'clock in the morning and his people aren't like, no, they're like, fuck, now we got to get him a camel at 3 a.m. Where are we gonna again and you're like, how the hell are we gonna make this happen? Like there's only a handful of those people, you know, and everybody else is kind of just you know, putting the same pant leg on at the same time, you know.
Exactly. And you know, even the guys that there was one actor who I won't mention his name, but on the lot in the casting office of this show, which was successful, but it was a TV show. In the casting office, his headshot was there. I said, why is his headshot there? He's being submitted for something, you know, guest star. They said, yeah. I said, that's so cool. When are you going to bring him in? They said, never. And just a few steps away was a giant mural painting of a scene from an iconic movie that we all know, and he was right there, like huge on the side of the stage. They went, that's the guy. You're not going to bring him in?
Right.
Nah, we don't want him on the show.
Wow.
Like, wow. Okay. Yeah. And you know, a couple days later, you know, seeing a casting session, and there's Lee Majors sitting with a bunch of other dudes, you know, fighting for this guest star role.
Yeah.
Wait, that the fall guy and the $6 Million Man is trying to get this guest star job?
Right.
I don't understand. This isn't how it's supposed to be, but it is.
I know it is. It's really, really weird. And you know, I was listening to an interview with Ben Stiller, and he was talking about how he passed on Good Will Hunting.
Wow.
To direct it.
Oh, wow.
And it was it came down to what he described it as the mood he was in that day.
Wow.
And it's like, and that's the crazy thing too, because you don't like, I don't know how long it took you to shake this, or maybe if you haven't shaken it at all, but how most of this stuff, whether it's auditions or any kind of an interview thing, it's not always personal, and it's hard to not take it personally.
I find myself, I don't know that I take it personally anymore. I don't think I take it personally, because especially in voiceover, there's so many auditions when things are, good.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of auditions coming. You don't have really time to think, and plus there's, like in on-camera acting, another, spoiler alert, it's not all, rainbows and unicorns.
Sure.
It's not just about how good you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, well, okay, how much of the game are you playing? How much are you willing to play?
Right.
How much, and I've never been good at that, which is why in many ways, it's been a miracle that I've worked, in the stuff that I have, because I haven't been willing to do that.
I understand completely.
And so anyway, I think what I've realized is something called Audition Hangover.
Ooh.
What that is that after a couple, maybe, a day or even two or however many, it's like there's this thing that happens for me where I just feel like I'm hungover energetically. It's not a good feeling. I'm doing a lot less of that now, because I'm not really, I'm in a different place. My focus is more on music now.
Nice.
So it's, it's different. It's a lot different, but that's part of, I think, what comes from, putting yourself in the ring, in the arena, is with auditions, is that you have to keep going. You have to keep going and doing that. If you don't, you have to have a really, really good team if you want to be successful.
Oh my God, the team thing, man. Yeah. It's so crazy. We're touching on so much stuff I want to ask you about now too, before I get into the team stuff.
Sure.
Dude,
and I want to talk to you guys about Dale Bozio. Oh my God.
Oh my God. She was so awesome. It's her birthday today.
This is the thing about Dale Bozio,
mm-hmm.
which I don't understand why people aren't talking about this, or maybe they are and I'm just not hearing about it.
Uh-huh.
But they always make these comparisons, Lady Gaga and Madonna, and how yes, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, Lady Gaga has lifted from Dale Bozio more than she has from Madonna.
Absolutely.
Musically speaking, maybe it's not as obvious, but performance-wise, absolutely, and style-wise, image-wise, oh my God!
Right? I know, it is crazy. We brought that up a couple times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, because it's you can't unsee that. I mean, you see how she dresses, you see all the stuff that she had done, and you're like, how long ago was this?
Yeah.
And it's insane. Yeah, no, they don't bring it up enough.
I mean, it's crazy. And she's, speaking of voiceover, never heard her speak.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, she sounds like my mom. She's from Massachusetts. She's from Boston area.
I love, I didn't know what to expect either, because I'd never, I've been a fan of Missing Persons forever.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to expect either. And I had spoken to her son over the phone, and he was like, trust me, you're going to have a blast. And I was like, yeah, of course. Great. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Max was saying the same thing too.
Great job too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. She was so much fun. I mean, just an absolute blast to talk to. But she really created something. Yeah.
And I don't think she gets enough credit.
I completely agree. The thing that I was going to say, so like music wise, like, I don't know if it happens that much, because comedians get, I mean, for a while there, for at least like 5 years, I think it was just something that the media was covering, but about lifting material. You know what I mean? That was like a whole thing. It was like a Dane Cook kind of like stuff.
Oh yeah.
But like, it's got to be harder in music, because every song can be titled almost the same thing, which I don't understand. Yeah. Which is fine. I feel like I always wonder. I feel like for people who are listening to it, it's not a big deal. I always wonder if personally you're like, fuck, man, I had a song called that, and now this band's got the same song. Can you even do that? And then the other stuff too is like, basically like musical interludes, notes. Like I know, oh my God, the Verve Pipe got sued by, oh my God, blanking on was it the Stones or something like that?
Oh, really?
No, I'm wrong.
Aerosmith sued the Verve Pipe.
Yes, because but not personally them. I think they're the label or
Sure,
something.
they're mad.
I'm getting them mixed up. I wish somebody
Okay,
would.
but
I don't know
some
if
big band sued
yeah,
the
sue
Verve
them
Lab.
for Bittersweet Symphony because they said in the beginning that part, there's a beginning part of it that was done in the 70s, and it was like their musical interlude to a song, and I can't remember what it is because I'm blanking on everything. But yeah, and I was like, oh, how often does that happen, and does anybody care?
I think personally, well, for comedy, I think it's worse because,
Yeah,
like, if you go to a show and some comedian is there, he goes, "Oh, that's good. I like that," and he writes it or she writes it, and they lift it. That's stealing. That's stealing right there.
Yes, absolutely.
And you don't really get the kind of osmosis, I don't think, in comedy that you get in music. So for a comedy writer to steal another comedian's work, I think is more intentional, which makes it worse because it's already a cutthroat business and it's a cutthroat kind of thing. And if you can't trust, your fellow comedians, that sucks. Because then you're like out there doing your thing and you're putting your heart and your soul into it. You're writing, you're creating this new thing.
Yep.
I think it would sting more as a comedian. As a musician, I think at this point in time, I think it's laughable to sue another songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens in music is that, first of all, there are only so many notes.
Yeah.
And in Western music, there are only so many chords that really, and in pop music, it keeps getting, it's like Western music, pop music, it keeps getting smaller. And it's like a lot of the songs now are getting so simple that, you're looking at 3 chords.
Right.
You're looking at the same beats. You're looking at the same phrasing. You're looking at, and I think that, I know for me, I have moments where I write something, and by the way, it doesn't come from me. Just like it didn't come from the Verve Pipe, just like it didn't come from Aerosmith, just like it didn't come from the Beatles. It comes through.
Right.
You're like a channel. You're the instrument, and it comes through from wherever. Call it God, Spirit, Source, the universe. The Ewoks, whatever you want to call it, and it comes through.
Pretty cool.
And so you're kind of doing your version. It's the same thing with the inventions. If you ever notice, someone will come out with an invention and someone will go, I invented that. And there will also be multiple versions of that product available because we get this information and someone will produce it. Let's, in this case, we'll say musician, and it happens, and other people are getting the same information and they're doing their thing. So anyway, it's a long-winded answer, but I think it's an important question. So I'll finish it by saying this. There's only so much you can do in music. And I think like Little Steven said in your interview that you did with him, he said something like, at one point it was original, but at a point in the 60s, you became versions of different things into one.
Right.
You became different things started to conglomerate into the Rolling Stones or into Led Zeppelin or into whatever. And so we have become all of our influences, into what we do. So, dude, I hear Paul Stanley, and I'm a big Kiss. I love Kiss, their music and the image and all. But you hear Paul Stanley, talking about, this song, I remember listening to this and I did this part of this song. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're like cobbling, but that's what we do. We do what we love. We do our versions of things.
Right. And it gets so confusing too, because you see in the news, I think it was, oh my God, I'm doing it again. But Olivia Rodrigo had a song that came out. It was relatively popular or whatever. And then all of a sudden she had to give writing credits to, I cannot think of the other one. Now this is going to drive me crazy. But
you ponder that. It was Alan Klein, and the Rolling Stones manager who sued.
I was the Stones. Okay, thank you.
He sued
owned
the
their
verb
copyright.
pipe?
Yeah, he sued the verb pipe. Not the like. I
Wow.
think this like the guys, they didn't really care. I think they had interviewed them once, and they were like, "We don't even know what the fuck you're talking about," But it's all these behind the scenes people that are kind of like, doing that stuff too. But same thing. Olivia Rodrigo had a song. I think it's Good for You or whatever, and then they said, "Oh, it sounded like a song from Paramore," and so she had to give writing credits to Paramore on that song.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which is I feel like it's either it just fascinates me because not even that I think the songs are that great individually either or whatever it is, they're definitely there, but like she doesn't seem to care either because it just seems like a money thing and like whoever the companies are more than the individual artist.
Well, when you're an artist like Olivia Rodrigo, you have a machine.
Yeah.
Like Taylor Swift or Dua Lipa or any of these artists that are big now. They have machines behind them.
Right.
They're machines. There's PR and there's management and there's all these different merchandising and there's all these teams. So I think that's part of the danger of being an artist in that position, especially when you're young and if you're not business savvy, because you don't really know what's going on. And it's like, well, they have to take care of that.
Right. I agree.
Hopefully they do.
And that goes back to what you were saying about teams before too, and you don't realize how many people, because like it can be probably when you're younger, a hindrance when you have so many people surrounding you and you're trying to create stuff for the first time. But also if you don't have anybody, like, people always assume it's their fault that their stuff's not getting out there. And it's like, no, what you don't realize is like, there's, this person basically has this team around them. So like when they do an interview, that person's team is already like cutting up quotes and then sending it out. It's like, it's not that people are just stumbling upon stuff. It's like there's an organization behind it. People don't know that. They think like, oh man, I'm not saying the right thing or working hard enough because my stuff's not getting out. And it's like, you just don't have the money to shell out for, really good PR.
Yeah,
Max 15,
exactly.
Michael.
And I think that's one of those, I don't know if it's a secret. I don't think they're keeping it from people necessarily, but it's something you don't realize until you're in the trenches of it and, spend time kind of in the presence of people that are doing that. Yes. And you go, oh, yeah, wow, there's something going on here.
Yeah. I'll tell you something. For the life of me, I mean, I kind of get it now, but I say this slightly in jest, but I do not know what the fuck PR does. You know what I mean? Like I do, and I understand in a pinch what it means. You know what I mean? I understand what they technically do. Yeah. But I've worked with a couple different PR people before, as you have to do in what we do and whatever. And sometimes I'm like, I get done, or you get done spending the money, and you're also just kind of like, okay, what did you do that I?
What did you do?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what did I just fucking pay for, and where did it go? And and sometimes they like, I think it's hilarious because when I was first starting out and PR people were approaching me, it seemed like they were like, hey, give us money for the effort, and I'd be like, yeah, or not. Or like, how isn't it crazy that like you give money first and then they're like, we're gonna try.
Yeah.
But if we don't do what we say we're gonna do, it's like, oh,
we're gonna tell you what we're gonna try to do,
right?
And hope that we accomplish the goals you want us to accomplish, and you just have to trust that we're actually gonna do something, even though we're probably not.
Exactly, and it's insane to me. I mean, they throw out numbers sometimes. I remember before I was verified on like social media and stuff, I had people approaching me going like, we can get you the blue check, like literally like old guy at a street corner with his like jacket up. Would you like one of these verified? But they were like, yeah, like you really need that. This is like back in the day when like that was also like high stakes, fucking Jenga. And they would be like, yeah, if you can get us, we can get you that. And I'd be like, oh, cool, like an idiot. And I was like, oh, what do I need to do? And they're like, well, it's $3,000. And then and I'd be like, I'll get it one day. You know what I mean? And then,
and that's the thing that most people don't realize, that there is all that stuff happening with your, these people that have these huge followings. Like, why is it that it's not real?
Yeah.
It's not real.
It used to bug me when I would go to comedy clubs in these places or whatever, because the other thing is too, is I kind of understand, I try as little as possible to understand where business owners are coming from, because I do not like them. So you'll very rarely hear me say, I understand, but I understand they're like trying to quantify something and they don't know how, right? So they're grasping at whatever they can instead of just looking at the talent, which should be enough.
That's just a fantasy, though.
You're 100% right.
It's
but it'd be
fantasy.
weird because I don't know if it's the same for musicians too, but I would go to these places where they'd be like, okay, so you want to do this club? That's great. What's your follower count? And I would be like, yeah, but they're not all in Boise. You know what I mean? So I don't know what difference does it make? But they really just, for them to process it, they need to know.
Yeah, that's like, well, wait, but I'm really funny.
Yeah.
I'm really talented. No, we don't really care. We just want to see what the numbers look like. And I think that's part of the reality is that, I mean, gosh, there's so many talented people out there that you'll never hear about.
Right. Yeah. And it's insane too. I wanted to ask you though, because you were going back, I'm surprised I'm remembering everything. Normally I'm fucking ADD and I'm really bad about going back, but it's great. So like, you were talking about the audition process and everything. And when you were doing voiceover stuff, and I know you still do it too, but like, do you prefer the physicality of it? Because I know with COVID, I couldn't be in the room to even do audition stuff, right? So like, I can't imagine what it was like for voice actors to try to do that kind of stuff and have to just send in audio. Do you rely more on like, here's my voice and also this is how I'm gonna, maybe you can draw the character off my actions, or do you strictly prefer like just your voice being heard?
Well, I kind of came at a time where the things were shifting anyway. So I was doing a lot of auditioning from home anyway.
Oh, okay.
There would be in-person auditions, which I always preferred just because I love going into, I mean, I'm a hermit at heart. So that would get me out to, to see people doing something I love and meeting new people. And I always enjoyed that part of it. So when COVID came around, not being able to record the job was the thing that I missed the most. It wasn't the auditioning as much, although I did miss that, but it was the job because then you're recording from home. Yeah. And that was not, I don't really like that as much.
Right.
Not even close as much as I like to being. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. Now, I was recording a show during that time when, protocols were in place and the studios had kind of, their rules were in place. So yes, I was still going into the studio actually at that point doing a show, which I was lucky. That show's called Droners. And nice. I don't know if it's out yet completely, but we finished it. So nice. You never know.
I think it's on your IMDb. So it's coming out, I think, eventually. Cool. Yeah.
Cool.
I do my homework.
That was fun.
And now you know what else is cool too? I know I just gotta geek out for a second. You did a voice for Voltron.
Actually, for Voltron, I was on the other side of the glass, actually.
No way.
So Voltron came out, their reboot came out in I think
1999?
99.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I recorded most of the episodes of Voltron, not as a voice actor, but behind the glass.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was cool.
That's awesome.
That was very cool.
Yeah. Did you was that the first time you had switched those roles?
So I started in 99. I started my first real job was working at Salami Studios, which is where all the big cartoons were produced at the time and still are.
Yeah.
Actually, after all this time. So at that time it was Men in Black, Voltron, Starship Troopers, did one of the first CGI series. It may have been the first CGI series. Yeah. I'm not sure. Scooby-Doo, Alvin and the Chipmunks, recorded that on analog tape, which was fun.
Oh, wow.
Trying to think what else. The Christmas Lamb, which was something you probably not heard of, but I think they may have changed that to something else. But recorded Mark Hamill there, got to meet him and work with him at that time.
Oh, that's so cool.
He's definitely my favorite voice actor. Such a talented guy and nice beyond belief.
Yeah, I've had a few people who've met him, and I heard he's amazingly nice.
Yeah.
Best Joker I think I've ever heard of all time.
He was actually in a Rock Sugar video.
Really?
Yeah. He was in a Rock Sugar video. He made a cameo in that with Weird Al Yankovic was in it.
Oh my God.
That's cool.
A bunch of really cool people were in it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, so check it out. It's on YouTube.
I will. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you guys stay friends, like close after that?
No, I'm not. Our singer is Jess, who we were talking about.
Yeah,
He's Wacko on the Animaniacs and a good buddy of mine.
great show.
Yeah, he's tight with Mark, but no, I didn't. Uh, yeah, but we just worked together and met him a few times. He's just such a sweet guy, really cool guy, and amazingly talented too. So.
Awesome. Is there? So I know you've done some video game acting,
Yeah.
voiceover and stuff too. Is there a huge difference between animation, like doing the TV stuff, and then doing for a video game, other than maybe like a deadline, I guess?
I wouldn't say a huge difference, but there's all different kinds of types of animation now. So between the video games, the difference between the video games and, well, unless you're doing something maybe like one of the bigger Final Fantasy or something that's like a more of a long form mini day recording. You're going in for a day, you're recording your stuff, or you're going in for a day and then you're coming back, a couple weeks or maybe more like months later. Like with Final Fantasy, War of the Visions, that was, you go in, it was just me.
Yeah.
And you do all your lines solo, and then later on, if they have stuff, you'll come back. So I came back. I don't know how many sessions there were in total, but for a show, like let's say, any show where there's a cast, it is quite different because you're doing multiple episodes. And
Right.
At least before COVID, you were with the cast. It's a group of people. I never got a chance to do that, which was always a dream of mine, but I never was able to crack that nut.
Oh man.
Yeah, but so yeah, it's different. As far as the acting is concerned, maybe when you're talking about anime or you're talking about video games, a style of video game, depending on what kind of style you're in, if it's more realistic,
right?
I tend to play these characters. They hire me for these more what they like to call flamboyant characters. So like Wallace in Pokemon or Count Nightfell, Beyblade. They're more extravagant. They're more flamboyant.
They're more fun to play.
It's
I would
more
say
fun
because your characters are like they stand out when I know all the
it's way more fun for me, which is why when I audition, I'm like, how can I make this fun? For me.
Nice.
And I noticed that a lot of times when there's not. I know they're not going to hire that, but I'll do it anyway. And because they're like, oh, we want something real. We want something, like this prototype. It just came in today. I did an audition today for a video game. And the prototype was, I'm trying to think of the actor. It doesn't really matter. Just a very like normal dude.
Right.
Very normal dude. Like to me, that's very boring.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll direct me that way when I get to the session, which is cool. That's fine. But for the audition, like, you know what? I'm going to have some fun with this because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the job anyway. So
right. So you might
as well have fun.
Yeah, I completely agree. That was one of the hardest things I had to learn in the beginning was like, don't go into an audition with what you think they're going to want. Just fucking do your thing. And if you're having fun, that's when I got callbacks.
Exactly.
When I finally let the guard down, I was just like, if I can make the director or the guy laugh behind the table, then I don't even care about anything else.
Yeah. And especially as a comedian,
yeah,
to really like have fun with it and to use your comedy skills. I'm not a comedian, but I constantly use like my improv skills and my comedy sensibility, and maybe probably too much because I find humor in most everything, but
right.
At least it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to touch on, you were talking earlier about you got some new stuff. Yeah, could you imagine? Take the jacket.
No, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, no, we will not talk about.
I don't even know what you're going to say.
Yeah, so Jack Nicholson. No, I'm just kidding. Out of the blue. I would be amazed. Imagine if you were like, actually.
He was never someone I saw in person, although that would have been cool. I
hope he's okay.
Nicholson's work.
Yeah, we wish him well.
Laker game, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. But I wanted to touch on the new stuff you got coming out. The project you're talking about, Healing Rock. The new songs and music you got coming out.
Yeah, so I basically, I'm trying to think of where to start. I don't know how much time we have, and I don't.
Oh no, we got. You're good.
A little bit of time.
Yeah, of course.
So as a musician, I do everything. I'm a one-man band, sing, play guitar, bass, drums. I do everything, write the songs. It's too much, but still, that's kind of how it's always been done.
Right.
Other than in Rock Sugar, where I just play bass and sing.
Mm.
This is my own project, and just called Michael, and it's basically rock pop music, but with healing elements.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how I got to that was I did some work that I don't really talk about, but I think is important to talk about now, just because it just relates to how I came about wanting to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I started a songwriting program for kids in hospis. And what we did was we wrote songs together, kids that had never written songs before. And none of them thought they could do it. Like, I've never written a song. Like, no, you're going to write a song. It's going to be awesome.
Right.
And it was. And I would take the song when we wrote it, I would take it back to my studio, produce it, record it, so that they would have it. Of course, their family would have it as a tribute, you know, and a way to remember them. So I did that for Providence Trinity Care Hospice in Los Angeles when I was there. And my father lost his wife a few years ago, and I wrote a song for him, recorded that. And I don't know how you guys feel about like healing and energy work, but you know, I'm kind of a skeptic about that stuff, even though I know it's real because I, you know, have experienced it. But I went when I got here after I left LA, I was like, man, I need a detox seriously. Like 23 years of energy that I accumulated over there.
Right.
I went to a Reiki healer. She was awesome. Came back a few days later, had this, I'll just call it a lucid dream. Woke up and I said, I need to write kind of what I did with the hospice kids in a way, and with my dad, is writing rock songs, healing songs for people that are struggling. You know, and everyone struggles, especially with this time that we've gone through. So I've got songs, inside of the songs, it's not just the intention of the songs for healing for the listener, but there are a couple of elements in there. There's throat singing. It's like, you know, this really deep, like it's very powerful stuff. There's, you're going to laugh. And just thinking about it makes me smile, which is why I put it in there. The glockenspiel.
Oh, no way.
Glockenspiel.
That's great.
Dude, you cannot listen to a glockenspiel and not smile. You can't even talk about a glockenspiel and not smile.
Can't even say the word.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. And so there's elements of that in it. And there are tuning forks in there. There's tuning fork for love, the vibration of love, and also Om, which is like the universal
baseline
sound, let's say. Some believe it's the originating sound of creation.
Right.
So it's like getting back to the source, whatever you might call it for you. So all that stuff, you can't necessarily hear those elements. They're buried a little bit in the mix, but they're there.
Nice.
So what I'm doing is I have actually created the music. It's literally days away from being completed. It's all been recorded and mixed. It's just, I'm fine tuning the mixing and the mastering right now. So that's going to be out soon. And what's cool about it is that if you're like, you know, I like the songs, they're really cool. I don't want the healing elements in it though. I just want to hear it without it. There's a version of that.
Wow.
Without it. There's a version without the vocals. There's acoustic versions of certain songs. So it's like there's multiple versions that you're going to get at one time. It's not going to be available on iTunes. It's not going to be on, you know, the big machined, you know, it's not going to be on Spotify as of right now. It's only going to be available on my website.
That's really cool. And both versions.
How many versions?
No, both versions. I mean, like, are going to be
all
on
the
your
versions. Yeah.
Oh, all the versions. Yeah.
Nice.
They're going to be and in fact, you're not going to. It's just going to be a package. So you're going to, you know, it's going to be a package. You're not going to be like, I want this one for, you know, $1.99 and that one. No, it's just going to be a package.
That's awesome. You know, be a great experiment though, is to have somebody listen to the healing, like do a test focus group. Don't tell them which is which. Oh man, that would be, because it's crazy that like, I like that because when you said, you know, it was like healing rock, I was thinking about the tuning forks. Because I swear to God, man, I don't know if it's serendipitous or what, but every time I've been scrolling through, either the internet, TikTok, or whatever, I keep seeing these posts or these videos about people messing around with tuning forks and what the sound means, and like all this other stuff. And there's another one too. There's this place that does the same. It's like a natural tuning fork. And again, I wish I wasn't blanking on. I don't know what's wrong with me lately.
There's a lot of energy centers, right?
Well, I was gonna say, there's a rock. There's this basically like a tuning fork natural rock formation thing that people
Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
Wow.
You're welcome.
That's what it is. I was like, where in the holy hell?
Do you know?
Do you know where?
I'll give you the exact location. What it is that you could hit the rocks, and they're supposed to be like a drum that each rock will have a different sound.
Yeah,
I'll grab it for you.
It's pretty crazy, and people have gone there and had like the same kind of feeling experience. But yeah, I've been reading about that kind of stuff lately because it just seems interesting to me, and it is very like I love listening to. I have music that I listen to for certain reasons. Like I don't sleep well ever, so but there's if I'm having a real hard time, I have like a few songs that I'm like, all right, I'm playing these 5, I'm putting them on a loop, and man, it just relaxes me, makes me feel good. I don't even have less shitty dreams. You know what I mean? Like it'll totally change the mood I'm having. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it can. It absolutely can.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Ringing Rocks County Park.
That's what
it's over Black Eddy, Pennsylvania, in Bucks County.
In Bucks County, I spent a little bit of time there.
Right, which you should only spend a little bit of time there, unless you're going to that place. It's so weird that Pennsylvania is, it's Pennsylvania. We shit on Pennsylvania a lot here, but the thing is there are cool places like that within it. So you're like, nah, I gotta go to Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania is the most haunted.
I know.
State in the country.
I'm so glad you said that.
I
love that stuff. 100%. I don't always. Man. I don't I'm skeptical about it, but I really want. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I wouldn't mind seeing a ghost. I would fucking.
You've seen a ghost.
I have seen a ghost. Yeah, we've talked. I know. We've talked about it before. I've told this story a million times. I saw a ghost once, and then, but I didn't know it was at the time. And then my friend told me later, it was this thing. I'll whatever. So I'll tell you what happened.
Was it a shadow person, or was it like you see us right now?
No. It was like I see you guys.
Wow.
I was driving down the Parkway. It was really late. I was coming back from the New York. I said New York and not the city because nobody lives in the city. I've been trying to do that because I'll be like the city, and people are like, we're in Vancouver, and I'm like, fuck.
East Coast, so I
okay, great, yeah. So I'm coming back from New York or whatever, and I'm driving on the Parkway, and it's 2:30, close to 3 o'clock in the morning, and I see this woman in a nightgown on the shoulder of the Parkway. And I'm like, first of all, I'm annoyed because I'm like, now this is my problem because there's nobody here but me. So I'm like, fuck. And I was doing 80. So I flew past her, and then I just called 911, and I was like, hey, heads up. I didn't see a car accident, but I know there's the woods on that side. So maybe she's somebody in distress. I don't know what it is. So they're like, okay. And they always sound annoyed, by the way. 911 never sounds like thank you. They're always like, okay.
I got another one who saw the ghost again on 95.
Yeah, exactly. So I get to I was working part-time at a library. Exciting. And my buddy, I told my buddy what was going on, and I was just annoyed. I was like, it's so shitty that they don't call you back to tell you if whatever you reported, worked out, or they found somebody, or to thank you. So then he's like, why, what's up? And I tell him, and he's
That's a comedy bit, by the way, right there.
It could very well be. I've never used it before on stage, but yeah. So he's like, get the fuck out of here. That's crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm like, it really happened. And he goes and grabs a Weird New Jersey book. And from East Coast, you know what Weird New Jersey is, right? Those guys. And it's in the book. There's a woman that got murdered on the same, and every night at 3 a.m., which is she runs and asks for help.
Wow.
It's the only time I've ever done it. And I'm always like, why didn't I pull over? But yeah. How crazy is that? That was the only thing. But I love haunted stuff, man. My friends and I go to the Poconos every summer, and I'm always reading. They much to their detest, but I'm always like, hey guys, you want to know where we are?
Poconos. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, but I can tell you, man, that ever since I was a little kid, I've had ghost experiences, many of them.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it's one of those things that. I mean, ghosts I've seen lots of, if you want to go like the spaceship route, we could talk about that.
Oh man,
Lots of crafts in my life.
Let's go.
And mostly in broad daylight.
Oh wow.
So, I mean, yeah, that whole world. I definitely have a lot of stories from that side of my life, which I think we don't. It's in a certain group of people that talk about that.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people have had experiences that you just don't talk about because it's not really what you're supposed to talk about.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know. But yeah, that stuff is very, very real. And in fact, Max Wassa, who's my good buddy, and she, does some of the music management for me, who got me on the, this show with you guys.
Yeah. We love Max.
She lived in a house in LA. The first time I went there, I parked my car and I didn't really see the house, but I was like, I just get these feelings sometime, and I went, I'm getting that feeling. Mm-hmm. I walked to the house. As I was walking up, I went, this house is definitely haunted. I went inside, and I said, I told her, I said, there's 2 people in this house, just so you know. Ooh. And anyway, there are other stories around that, but the one I'm going to share with you is the first time we were sitting in her kitchen nook. I'm looking at her, and her back is basically, there's the sink and the whatever, a window. Mm-hmm. Behind me are cabinets, just a bunch of cabinets, all closed, but just a bunch of cabinets. Probably about, this much space where the wall is.
Right.
We're talking, just, having a conversation. I hear this energetic sound, like it's just like right. That. And I was like, wow, that was weird. In my head, I said, well, that was weird. I look at her and her face is white. I said, what's wrong? She said, look behind you. The cabinet that was completely closed was completely now open.
Holy shit.
That happened to me at least twice, maybe 3 times again, just like that.
Wow.
In different times when I went to that house.
Oh my God. One of my, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I do believe certain people are like more receptive of the energies than others, yes. Right? And I feel like if you're one of those individuals, that it would try to find you more.
Yeah,
right?
That's actually a really interesting point, because one of the things that I said to her, as I said, another side of me is very, very intuitive. Ever since I was a little kid, have gotten information. And one of the things that came through was I said, there's a boy here. And she said, one of the family that owns the house, their son was, their young son had passed away.
Wow.
And when I left the house, basically he followed me back to my place. So I would go, my voiceover booth, which is funny just because you're talking about voiceover, was a cabinet I configured, and had doors, and you just close it, close. Yeah. I would go, to the sink, to the bathroom, to the other room. I'd come back and the door was wide open. And then I started being visited by him in my dreams.
Oh my God.
So yes, they do, and that's the danger of that, is that when you're receptive to it, if you're someone who is, for whatever reason, energetically attracted or in tune with that, they can kind of follow you. And, sometimes they're less harmful than others, and I've had times where they're a bit more malicious.
Right.
And that's no fun.
Are you receptive to it, though?
I don't go looking for it.
Yeah.
But what happens for me is that the kinds of people that are attracted to me are the ones that I would say are stuck. Mm. There's a place in between. Wow, I didn't expect to be talking about this, but there's a place that's in between this world that we're experiencing, the material world, and let's say the next world. Some people might call it heaven. There's a middle ground, which I think is more kind of closer to what people call hell. There's not, burning devils constantly or anything. It's more like, hey, guess what? You feel everything you feel now. You see everything you can see now, but you can't talk to the people you love.
Oof.
You can see them,
yeah,
but you can't talk to them. And I think especially when there's a traumatic event for someone that dies in a traumatic way, in an unexpected, in a sudden way, it's like a bam, and you're out of your body. And especially with kids, it's like what, people don't know what's happening. So they kind of get, I think, stuck. And the ones that find me know that I can help them get to the next place. So if I know, it's like, you're stuck, but you don't know what to do and no one's come to help you yet, I'm going to call upon those angels that can help you, and you're on to the next thing.
One of my closest friends, you would love her, but I've known her since I was I think like middle school or whatever. She has her name is Desiree Hartman. She's one of those people. They find her, whatever the stories are. I mean, she's just one of those people who has had so many experiences.
Yeah.
Some of them are bone chilling, that they like, she'll recant them and you're just like, no wonder why, no wonder why you can't sleep, or whatever is going on. But she has she just sees, she's one of those people who can feel, like you say, like you walk into a room and you're like, oh my God, she knows completely. She's had these experiences before. She said, I guess more on the malicious side or whatever, but she'll wake up feeling like something's sitting on her chest, or whatever it is. And they're hard to explain, or they have zero explanation or whatever it is. I feel like I kept thinking about, we should get her on. You're totally welcome to come back as well, because she's got the most insane stories I've ever heard, from when we were kids, when I've known her, to like now. It's like, she's just accepted the fact that, that's the tune that she's in. And it's just one of those things. It's
not actually. And I'm glad you're sharing this with me, because it's not. And I think that's part of the reason why maybe we're talking about this, is because I don't usually talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid to, but it's just, but it's important now. I think it's coming up for me a lot now, because there are people out there like her that are experiencing these things. And there's two things specifically about that. When you have someone to feel like there's someone on your chest, there are two things. One, there is sleep paralysis, which happens in the middle stage as you're leaving your body every night in dreams. And people don't know this, but you leave your body every night.
Mm-hmm.
Every night. But you just don't remember until you remember, or until you see yourself do it or feel yourself do it. And then you look at your body and go, oh, wow, that's me, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so in the mid stage, right before that happens, there's this feeling they call it sleep paralysis, where you think someone's there. Someone else is there. And you can't move, and you feel like someone's holding you down.
Yeah.
And it's very scary, because you can see, your eyes aren't actually open, but with your, they call it the third eye, with your eye, your real eyes, your eyes are actually closed, but you can see. That's what happens in a lucid dream or an out-of-body experience or astral travel, is you actually see, but your eyes are closed.
Yeah.
Second thing, so it's either that, or second thing is, there are these demons. They do exist. They do find people, mostly they find people that they know they can control or torment, because either one, those people don't know how to deal with them, or two, they're scared.
Right.
And that's what they feed on. So, I mean, the last kind of, demonic experience I had was, I was asleep, and, in the dream state, it was completely black, but I heard this voice basically doing this chant. It was like, and this really nasty voice.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've learned is that I know how to deal with that stuff. And how you deal with that is you just wait. And at some point, if you're calm, your eyes will open. And I saw this thing right on the side of my bed, this little, demon thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, I'm almost you keep doing your thing. Go ahead. Keep doing it, because I'm almost at a point where I know what I can do about you. And there's a point where when you're calm and your energy matches the vibration of that space that you're in, which is the astral plane, some call it the dream space, you could call it whatever, where you can now you're in that space. And I went and I grabbed the thing, and it went away and it never came back. And that's what you have to do. You have to basically face your demons. It's like in life.
Yeah, it's a good metaphor.
You have to face your demons, and if you do, 9 times out of 10, the only reason they're coming after you is because they know they can, either through fear or your lack of awareness.
Right.
So I think that, and I'm happy to talk to your friend too, because that's how you deal with them. You
guys would hit it off great. Like she's got, it's so funny because like she's one of the, I've maybe a couple of friends who've seen some random stuff. Like we all, talk about some weird shit sometimes. But she's the one I think of every time somebody's got stories like you and like basically has experiences like that. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, like since I met her, we've talked about that kind of stuff. And she's always had, really either like some are, obviously innocent and like kind of fun, and some like literally will scare you to your core. And there's like, holy shit.
Yeah, man, it's the ones that are tormented, and it really takes a toll, because as I sit here and I say these things with a straight face, if you've never experienced that, people that will watch this are going to go, oh my God, this guy's a trip. He's crazy. He's insane. He's, imagining all these things. But it's like anything else. Once you experience something, like, you could say to someone who doesn't believe in God, let's say, or let's just say, I'm not Christian, but let's just like pick a popular one. Let's say Jesus. Someone comes at you and is like, dude, Jesus, whatever. I've never. But if that same person later actually has an experience where, let's say, Jesus comes to them in a dream that is more real than they've ever, they're gonna believe.
Oh, sure.
At that point.
Yeah.
So when you experience something like these kinds of things, it's not like you're making them up or imagining them. I mean, any more than, let's say, life is an imaginative experience.
Right.
You can't really deny it. And for people like that who experience these things and are struggling, and there are a lot because they can't talk to people about them because they don't know anyone who's experienced them.
Well, I mean, they've done those experiments on, like, MK Ultra is a thing that I always like reading about online and stuff like that from back in the day. I mean, it's what Stranger Things is based on, I think. Yeah.
I find it so interesting too, because my wife is very like, she's an intuitive personality. Yeah. I am not, right? But I would love to have an experience, but I can't because it's just not built into me. But we'll be we were walking through the Coliseum, and she's like, got really bad vibes here. She's like, I don't want to stay here long. I got to get out of here. And I'm like, why? What's wrong? I'm like, I've been dying to see this place. Like, it's a piece of history. It's a world wonder. She's like, nope, sorry. Feels like a lot of death here. I don't want to be here anymore.
Oh yeah.
But she didn't know like how much death occurred there. Right. But like previous to, but just her vibe will be totally different. And she's had,
but she knows. Because like even if you're just someone that understands energy, like you could be if you sit next to someone who's got some bad mojo, some bad juju, you can feel it. Even the people that aren't sensitive to it, versus if you're next to someone who's like so loving, the difference. Yeah. But when it comes to people who have extrasensory, perception, like there are 2 types of people I call us: absorbers or exploders. The absorbers are the ones that we feel everything because we're like the receivers. Mm-hmm. The exploders are the transmitters, and they're like mostly extroverted people. They're always like da 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 da, which is kind of how I'm being right now. Always energy out, energy out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would say that with your wife, to be married to someone who's like that, for them to pick you as a partner says a lot about you, because being sensitive, they have to be careful of who they're with. So it says a lot about your energy and being good.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like you know what's funny? A lot of times, like especially like in the entertainment world, I find that the higher you get, a lot is based on energy. So people will say that to you right away, like she's like, "You have a great energy. I like your energy. You want to keep your energy." And it's like people are on a different intuitive scale on certain in certain circles, and it's I never got that because I had not operated on those levels, until I got into like later, like in 20s, 30s, and then you start to engage with people where it's not just what you say, it's just the presence and how you feel, which is interesting to me.
I'm never picking up on. I'm rarely, although I listen, I'm rarely going off of what people say because I've just since I was little, there's always what's underneath that I pick up on. That's what I'm listening to. Right. It's the energy that's being put out. And this is the thing that sucks about being in a relationship with me is that I see people.
Yeah.
Like, I see people. And a lot of times people, they don't really want to be seen.
Right.
We don't want people to, we don't want to be found out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see them physically pull back sometimes when somebody knows like or gets them too well and they're like, fuck, I'm not doing this. And then they like recoil immediately and they don't want to be, because it's a weird feeling to have.
Yeah.
You feel exposed, like totally naked. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is weird. I like the vibe stuff or whatever because they'll, it's one of those things that's like hard to explain. And I've looked at different things. If you've got ADD or ADHD or whatever, like you kind of have like a perception of the world where you look at it like a little like you're just hyper about everything. You can kind of pick people out. But the same thing like with comedy, sometimes even when I'm talking to people, like I can tell by the tone of somebody's voice, what emotional state they're in or like where they are confidence wise or how they need to be talked to. So you know what I mean? So it's like, that's a weird thing. And I feel like I don't ever mention it because there's no people either think you're just full of shit, whatever. So but I feel like it's interesting to operate in life that way. Like you're saying, like you can read people really well.
I love that, man. And I think that, part of like, I'm doing music and I'll do so many different things. I actually created a course on how to improve and develop your intuition. Because one of my nicknames from this ex-girlfriend I had who was not very nice, she was like, "Oh, it's intuition." She used to laugh to her friends about it. It's like, God. Yeah, but when you're have a 95% ratio percentage rate of being right, I'm going to take this and use it and actually teach people how to develop it within themselves because you're right. You can use that in anything. And I think the more intuitive or the more you use those abilities in your work and in your life, the better things are because you can pick up you're like, hey, I can see this person's like where they are with their comedy, where they are with their act, with their confidence, with all of that stuff. And you can see what not everyone can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely frustrating sometimes, especially when something's up, but you have to do not necessarily the wrong thing. Wrong's probably a stronger word, but where you're like, fuck, I got to go against my gut here.
Don't go against it. I mean,
I know
because that's what we do, but
it is one of those things where you're like, all right, I'll go whatever. And then when you find out you're right, you're like, well, what's even more frustrating is when no one admits it, when they're never like, you know what, dude, you were right. Like, just say that.
Oh, dude, this is the thing I tell people all the time. First of all, people rarely will listen to you. They will rarely take your advice, which is okay, as I've learned, because everyone has their own life path, and they have to choose themselves. We have to choose ourselves. But yeah, 99% of people won't listen. 99% of people will not acknowledge when you tell them something. They're like, "Oh, I don't even remember you said that." No, I think that. I know. But back to real quick about what you said about not listening. I actually went through a phase of my life where I purposefully, it's like, I need to prove that this thing is real. So I'm going to purposefully go. And this is actually a great training exercise if you want to develop your intuition. You purposefully go against your gut.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you don't do it with big, major things. But right. Like, hey, you know what? You should take your phone down to your car when you need to go get that thing that you need to get. And you say, nah, I'm not gonna. So you don't. And you go down to the car and you're there for 10 minutes. And it happens that, you decide to clean your car and you're there for maybe 25 minutes. Well, you come back up and you missed an important call.
Yes.
For example.
Can I tell you, this is the weird, I will literally look at my phone and I'll think of somebody. And I'll go, you know what? I have to call so and so, and I swear to fucking God, they'll call.
Absolutely,
like 100%.
And I get that a lot with manifesting like connection. For some reason.
That's the weirdest thing to me though, because there's no rhyme or reason. I'll just be like in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I haven't heard from so and so in a while.
No, it's explainable. Fully
it's crazy.
Explainable.
Yeah.
You are receiving a energetic signal that's being sent out. So, like Tesla. If you've done any research on Tesla, we have the same birthday, so I'm,
oh, nice. So that's so cool.
Yeah, so I've learned, researched a lot about Tesla. Ronnie James Dio too, same birthday. I don't know who that is. Oh, Ronnie James Dio is like the godfather of heavy metal singing.
Oh shit, I don't know why.
Yeah, Dio. Yeah, he's passed now, but
right.
That's another great story, which we won't talk about now. But I got a chance.
Well, you're coming back. We've already decided you're coming back.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But the Tesla thing. So Tesla did experiments, and actually, if you don't already know, created a system of essentially wireless technology before wireless.
Right.
Before wireless, sending energy signals to lights and would light up. Fields.
Right. And reusable, where it wasn't
usable.
No, reusable. So it didn't die.
It would have been.
Yeah.
Sadly, the technology was lost and or stolen, but that's another story.
Yeah.
The theft.
But it's a simple phenomenon. It's someone is sending their energy out. Mm-hmm. In this case, your friend is saying, they're sending energy out to you, they're reaching out to you.
Right.
And they're like, basically, you're receiving their energy before their physical energy shows up. Wow. So they go, I need to call him. Bam, they send it out, and you go, wait a minute, you're receiving it. Mm. We are constantly sending and receiving energy like that, and we just don't think about it.
Yeah. It's like, I think it was the 2 neutrinos that they had sent into space or whatever that could communicate with each other from different ends of the globe, basically, like one shot out. And they were like, how are they communicate? Like they still don't have an answer for how exactly they would be able to send information and communicate to each other, but they found out that they were somehow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I totally believe. It's funny. Like some people, like my wife, are very receptive of outer things. I'm not so much, but I feel like I can have a thought and manifest it into reality pretty. Like if I'm like, I'm going to do this, it's not even a matter of like setting the universe in motion, but for some reason it occurs. Like I can doodle in a book, like an idea, close that book, put the book away. And then 2 years later, come back and be like, oh, I did that. That's where this is where it started.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Crazy.
It's not weird because it's only weird because it's not talked about.
Sure.
So that's the thing. We're not really raised to understand that. But I think the next wave of human evolution, if there is evolution and not de-evolution, because I actually think that we had all these abilities and we're using them, in the past and kind of got away and came more towards the material, which is where we are now, but trying to get back, I think, to what our ancestors did naturally. Anyway, those things are happening, and you can develop them if you want to. And also, like, it's the same thing when you get a vibe, like, I'm just getting this vibe, something's going to happen. I don't know, or I don't know what's wrong, but I just feel like something's not right now. And then you find out later, maybe someone passed or someone's going through something that you love, or even just happenings in the world, like, I said to my closer friends, I said the first 3 months, there's going to be a major event that happens in 2022. I don't know what it is, but we're going to see a major event happen. And I think this whole thing with the Ukraine is the beginning of that.
Oh God, yeah.
But the energy is already in motion.
Right.
It's not like it just happened.
Man, they wrote so many articles during the Trump administration, everything, just about how there's a collective feeling in the entire country, and everybody's going through the same trauma, and now especially obviously with COVID, there's all this PTSD that we're going to have that we're not even acknowledging that we're going to experience yet. But there was it's the only time, and I'm young, I'm not young, you know what I mean, but like I understand that there's been other shit that's happened in the past too, but it was one of those experiences for us, and I guess from my generation, it's like it was a weird time to go. Like everybody in the country is feeling the exact same thing for the most part, where we're like, there's some kind of unrest. Nobody's sleeping well. Nobody's feeling great. Something's going on, and it was everybody you talk to felt the same exact way.
Collectively. And we're actually, I think we're experiencing a very big shift, energetically with people. I think there's some kind of shift that it's happening. We're going to be going through that like we went through COVID collectively. There's going to be some big stuff, I think, that's around the corner. So yeah, I think it's the most important time for us to really be able to have those abilities, working as much as it can to help, protect ourselves and the people that we love, in case it's like, I'm getting this feeling I should stay home today with my, with my wife and my kids, and listening to that.
Yeah. I know it's crazy, man. I could feel like we could talk about this stuff forever.
I gotta ask you for a while.
No, I know it's fascinating too. Because I have the alien stuff. We got to get you back on to talk about.
Dude, anytime you just let me know. Happy to be here.
I was thinking the story. Thank you, by the way. I always think of the story of the lead singer of Smashing Pumpkins had said when one of his friends revealed himself to be like, what do you call it, like a lizard person. Swear to God, and like. I don't know whether to believe him or not. He obviously says he experienced it, and the guy, he turned around and turned back, and it wasn't his friend, and it was something else. But I mean, if any of my friends are like, "Hey, man, I got to show you the real me," I'd be like, "Let's fucking go, dude."
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, but no one ever, whatever. I'll wait.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't know about, and there's a lot of stuff out there that's very, very real that you wouldn't think is real, but it is.
Sure.
So, yeah, happy to talk about that another time. So you guys just let me know.
So let me ask you the big three. We got the same questions we ask every guest.
Okay.
End of the show. So if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what piece of advice would you give yourself that would help you today? Today being a Wednesday. No, I'm just kidding. Not today. We get real specific here.
One of the things I would say is when people punish you or judge you or seek to put you down or to hold you down, don't give that as a clue to also punish yourself. Let that one punishment just be the punishment. And that's from them. And you know what? They're doing that for their own reasons. It's got really not much to do with you.
That's a great way to look at that.
Don't double punish yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of that being singularly already a punishment.
That was something that just came the other day because it's like, when someone had this experience with someone who, again, looking beneath the surface, I knew what their energy at me was, and it wasn't good. And then I started to mimic their energy like we do, like you do, I'm sure, like you do as artists. And we start like, not only did they whip me in the back, but I took the whip that they, had originally, and I took it and I started to do it to myself without even thinking. And that's something that's a habit. It's a habit I've done all my life, and I never realized it. And said, you have to stop that. Let that their own punishment energy attack on you. Let that just be the only attack. Don't add to it yourself.
That's a good point.
What's next?
Second question. So what had to end in your life, good or bad, for you to wind up where you are today?
What had to end? What had to end was believing in fantasy more than reality.
Interesting.
That's something that is... The era of fantasy is ending. What I mean by that is take a look and you'll see the age of celebrity is coming to an end.
Gotcha.
Because we can see everything about them, and what we don't see is what makes celebrities celebrities. What we don't see.
Right.
They show us something. The PR team has an image. They show that to you, and that's what makes you like them, because they only show you very, very, very small piece.
Yeah.
It's what you don't see that keeps them at that level of celebrity, of godlike celebrity. But that age is over now. Right. It's coming to an end with Cameo, with Instagram, with Facebook, with reality shows, with being overexposed and seeing all this stuff. The age of celebrity is coming to an end, which is a mimic or a what I would call a representation of basically the end, the beginning of the end of fantasy. It's going to affect everything.
Nice.
But it's not going to be pretty.
For a second, you almost broke my heart, and I was like, "Please don't mention Marvel movies." I was like, "I do not want those to end." They've already killed off Iron Man. You're killing.
Oh gosh, I know. Yeah. I love those movies, though.
Me too.
If you haven't watched Hawkeye, it's awesome.
I have. It's so good. That was one of my favorite ones. That was so great. Did you finish it, Tom?
I didn't finish it yet. I gotta get through it.
Yeah, I love it.
I know. I'm caught in so many things. Sorry. Good.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Yeah, number 3. If this is a genuine dystopia, alien, zombies, the whole shebang, climate change hits, comet coming towards Earth, how would you? What would be your epic death? How would you want to go out?
How would I want to go out?
Yeah. Any way you want to.
Wow. I think if I had a choice, I would be piloting a plane.
Ooh.
Even though I don't know how to fly. Be piloting a plane. And why would I be piloting a plane if the world was about to end? I have no idea.
It's dystopia. None of it matters.
It's okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm piloting the plane, but I don't know. The plane gets blown up, but I survive. And that's how I die. Is I'm down. I'm falling down, like skydiving without a parachute.
Nice. That's a great way to go.
Plane exploded.
I love it. Flying a plane without knowing how to fly it, and then just skydive without. That's beautiful.
Well, if this would happen, who would know?
Yeah. Maybe you're like running and you attempt it. And you're like, there's a plane. I might live. I don't know how to fly it, but.
I think in reality, though, like I know this isn't reality, but I think if I'm answering sincerely, I would say I would like to be with a lot of people, comforting them, letting them know that, with the, incoming explosion or whatever, the atom bomb, the nuclear situation explosion, I'd be like, guys, you know what? We're all going together. And this is just one stop, and it's going to happen fast. We're going to be fine. And we're all going to, be on to the next thing.
Well, I hope you're our guide when it happens. I'm coming to you.
Maybe we'll be at the Rock in Pennsylvania.
Oh,
doing the thing, and we'll just.
That's a great way to go. Like the end of Mars Attacks when they go into the mountains, but I think that's in Colorado, so we won't go to Colorado. Yeah. Wait, before you go though, I just noticed it now, man. That is a badass watch. I love cuff watches, cuff bands.
Oh, thanks.
I've always had them. That is epic.
This is a 1950s Hamilton watch.
Oh my God, I know.
My dad gave it to me. He found it on a golf course like over 30 years ago. Found it, brought it back, and said, "I found this watch. No one claimed it." So they said, "No one claimed it. Do you want it?" And he said, "Sure." This watch is like, it's a cool watch.
That is a crazy awesome watch, dude. I always look for I have a few cuff band watches. I love watches as well.
Yeah.
But I got the Apple, the iPhone or whatever, which is like not as great as a nice watch, but you know what I mean? You got to use it. But I found online a cuff band for it that I could actually, because I was like, I'm not wearing that fucking rubber thing around my wrist, for the rest of forever. So I've got a bunch of different cuff bands for it, but that's badass, man.
That's awesome, man. Well, look, we could be awesome roommates, but also bad roommates, because we'd always be stealing each other's jackets and watches.
That's right. Switching.
Yeah. Well, it's great talking with you guys, man. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime, man.
Oh, wait. Is there a link to my Instagram on this?
There will we can
will
run
be?
it on the bottom of the screen, but when we post it, we put all your links.
Sweet, man. I hope that I can, I know that we're in touch, but I hope that we're in touch too, man.
As soon as we get off this, I'll make sure we link up.
Awesome.
Without a doubt. Looking forward
to it.
All
right, guys. Be well. Talk to you later.
Guys.
Such a pleasure, man.
Dystopia tonight.